Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And of course I rise to contribute to the Labor Hire Legislation Amendment Licensing Bill 2025. And this is the second of the Allan Labor government's legislative responses to the Wilson Review into alleged criminal activity on Victorian government construction sites. Now, let's remember how we got here. And the Shadow Minister, of course, touched on this and contributed a very strong 30 minutes, and you could probably go for longer on this as well. A string of damning media investigations, 60 Minutes, The Age and others, that's what it took to expose many in the industry had whispered for years about these serious allegations. But, Deputy Speaker, what I like to do in this place is, of course, give my electorate's perspective on these bills and the real-world implications, Member for Mordialloc. And the real-world implications, not only... So this is overreach. We know that. That's been illustrated. And it is in response to the Wilson Review, all about government construction sites, the CFMEU. We know all that. What it does do, though, is makes life incredibly hard, more difficult for food producers in the Mildura electorate. In fact, everywhere in Victoria. And how it does that, story time, indulge me. The Labor Hire Authority, when it came in, this was imposed on small agribusinesses, anyone that uses a contractor, and that is how farms operate these days, particularly in irrigated horticulture where they need a large workforce. Those out harvesting wheat, barley, oats, whatever at the moment, tend to do it with a much smaller workforce. But those that need large workforces for harvest time with permanent plantings, pruning, spraying, all that kind of stuff, picking, of course, they require the services of contractors, as they used to be known. Now they are labour hire services. So when the Labor Hire Authority was first established, I was in local government, and the sentiment of food producers in the region was one of confusion, it was one of anger, it was one of frustration because of the added bureaucratic red tape timelines that this creates for, in a lot of cases, family businesses that are already being strangled in red tape. And I talk about this all the time, the amount of audits that they have to go through, the amount of paperwork for visas, and now the Labor Hire Authority, it is making life so much more difficult for food producers than it has ever been before. And I say this along with all the other challenges that they have to put up with. So under this bill, the definition of labour hire services is expanded to include arrangements defined by their character and totality of the relationship. That means the Labor Hire Authority could decide that any farm that sources, coordinates or even facilitates workers between different growers, and that happens, might suddenly be classed as a labour hire business, even if that's not their main role. Even if they are using labour hire providers. So in my electorate, where growers often share workers, and they do, or they share farm, they use local contractors, like I said, for pruning, harvest, packing, picking. They might pool staff to save a bit of money. Those arrangements could now fall under the Labor Hire Authority's remit, meaning extra licensing fees and paperwork for small farm businesses. The real risk of unintentional non-compliance, and this is a real fear for food producers, for farm managers in the larger corporate structure farms, of which we are seeing more now because it's simply not viable for family farms to continue to farm the way they used to because they simply can't do it. And those unintentional non-compliance issues are a real problem. And again, it adds to the load that farmers are under with regard to their mental health. They struggle. Not only are they growing food to put on your plate, Deputy Speaker, they are going through all this administrative rigmarole day after day after day, and then being made to feel like they are already criminals before they haven't even commenced any work, before anything has even been proven or alleged. They feel like this is being imposed on them because of what has allegedly happened with the CFMEU on taxpayer-funded work sites. So that is a real risk and a real concern for food producers. There's also the potential for, and this isn't just a potential, regulatory confusion between farms, farmers, managers, contractors, pack houses, especially those in mixed use or share farming, like I said, which happens. Farmers already have, like I said, very, very limited faith in the Labour Hire Authority. It's viewed across the Mallee as bureaucratic, inconsistent, city-centric, surprise, surprise. And it's an authority that makes regional operators jump through hoops while often turning a blind eye to what's going on in the city. Now, this bill also means for farmers and agribusinesses more inspectors on farms looking for records. Now we've had issues, of course, with the VicGrid bill and VicGrid workers being able to waltz onto farms unannounced, which is a massive biosecurity risk. Massive biosecurity risk. And biosecurity is a real issue for us in this state. I'm not sure that anyone on that side is aware of how much of an issue it is, but it absolutely is. I was talking to some people from the citrus industry at lunchtime, actually, about fire blight and fruit fly. But then you have the ground-borne diseases that can be in someone's shoes, and if they don't know who is coming onto the farm, when, where they've been, that's such an issue. But it also gives the Labour Hire Authority the power to publish the names of companies even before decisions are made, to compel information and delegate coercive powers to contractors, and to judge character without defined criteria. That is not integrity, that is overreach. That creates uncertainty, reputational risk, and in such small rural communities, reputation's everything. It opens the door to selective and inconsistent enforcement, and I mean, procedural fairness, you would think it shouldn't be optional. It should be built into laws like this. So, no, we are not a fan of it because of the unintended consequences that I'm sure haven't been given a second thought by this government. Farmers are never given a second thought by this government. That has been proven time and time again. Time and time again by the mere fact that farmers are at the end of their tether. They really are, with the bureaucracy, the administration, the ever-continuing changes in laws and regulation and compliance. It is just getting beyond a doubt. So that is, and despite all this, Deputy Speaker, the CFMEU loophole still remains. The fit and proper person test applies only to the licence holder, not to the individuals actually sent onto work sites. So, and guess who ends up liable on a farm? The owner or the manager? That is, before anything's been proven, the owner or the manager. Which is I just cannot get my head around the complete lack of common sense in some of this legislation, honestly. So, and also let me point out, and this was pointed out when the Labour Hire Authority was first established, it's not hard to go and find someone ABN, ACN, and then get a legitimate one of those, and then go to a Labour Hire Authority website and find their Labour Hire Authority provider number, and match them up so that a labour hire provider can have these two numbers and go to a farmer and give them both of those numbers and they match. And what's the farmer supposed to do? He can look them up on those websites, but they match. So how is he to know that that is not a holding company that is under this person? And it could be someone completely illegal that isn't licensed, that isn't registered. It is so fraught with danger, and the ones who end up responsible for it, Deputy Speaker, is the bloody farmer again. And we are so sick of it. Time and time and time again, I stand up in this place for our farmers, and it is just absolutely ridiculous.